Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary, Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. Fortunately, the last time we'll be saying that for a good while because tonight was the mid-season finale, but in typical Lucha Underground fashion, man, did it pack a fucking wallop. What an episode this was. And what I loved about this episode of Lucha Underground is you could definitely tell they had a sense of urgency. They had a lot of narrative ground to cover, and they did cover it all, and not at any point did it feel contrived or forced or rushed. It's just they knew they had plot points to hit, and I think they hit them beautifully. And how this episode ended, it ended on somebody that I've been saying for a while now, I think is going to be huge if he isn't already for Lucha Underground. And I'm very excited for them, and we'll get to that later. But on the whole, this episode was just fantastic. Ashton, what'd you think of it, man?
Yeah, this was such a good episode. It's amazing to me that people hate on Lucha Underground. Like, even just the people that say that we're too enthusiastic about it, like, this show's so good, you guys. And it's not even just like, oh, it's an amazing wrestling show. It's an amazing TV show. We watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. last night, and it was amazing, but I feel like Lucha Underground gives it a run for its money as a weekly TV show. It's that good.
I mean, certainly. And bro, like, just touching on that, like, episodes like what we got tonight make me so unapologetic for loving Lucha Underground like I do. Because at the end of the day, whether you're devoting critical analysis to something or not, I think the end game is to be entertained, to have a good time. And Lucha Underground consistently takes me back to those roots of really just being a fan, of not seeing all the flaws of, oh, well, if they booked this guy this way or that woman that way, or if they just did this, I just am able to go along for the ride and have the time of my life. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I know WWE usually kicks their game up when it's the road to WrestleMania, but even that, I'm just kind of meh in comparison to Lucha Underground returning to television. If I'm really being completely straightforward to everybody, I just think this is the best product going right now, and I loved everything they did tonight. So, do you have any other preliminary remarks you want to get into before we really do this review?
Yeah, I just wanted to say rest in peace, Eagle Tribe and the Eagles and the Eagles.
Yeah, there you go. And we'll get.
Brings me back to Big Lebowski. I just fucking hate the Eagles, man.
Well, he's not alone, and we'll elaborate more on that later. But with that said, let us get right into our Lucha Underground review. And of course, we always get.
And you know what? I try not to give specific people shout outs from chat during reviews, but Brandon Best really did say it best. Lucha Underground's mid-season finale tore the roof off a building. Literally.
Yeah. But I mean, we of course open with the video package that touches on all the narrative beats that we're going to be touching tonight, which they did that excellently because I mean they hit everything. But we get an opening cinematic. Cueto's in his office with Delgado. Now, Ashton, when you were getting the other hangout ready for us to do this review, I actually watched the first few moments of this because I missed them initially because of all of our hiccups with hangouts. And Delgado and Cueto were actually discussing Cage. And he told Delgado, you're going to see him compete, with the gauntlet tonight. And, he assures Delgado, oh, he loves it. Little does he know that the power is taking over him. He doesn't control the power. And then Delgado said, sooner or later we're going to be men among gods. And then Cueto said, gods that owe us a huge debt, more or less. And Delgado's like, I'll drink to that. And that's the point. Whereas Tekka enters the cinematic. But yeah, initially they were discussing Cage. They were discussing the gauntlet. And I know we'll have more to say about that with Cage's match tonight. But I think this is at the point where you connected with me. So what did you think about the rest of this cinematic?
Yeah, well, I didn't really even... If you want the truth, brother, I didn't really get to watch much of this episode of Lucha Underground until, literally after the end of the Tahano Joey Ryan match, because the whole time I was trying to get Fubo TV to work, and it was just not working for me. They just recently, like in the last month or two, changed the player, and I've never had a problem with it prior, but this, tonight, I really wish I would have been able to turn the quality down, because before they changed the player, I would always set my quality on Fubo to 288p, which is pathetic, but that's about as good as my laptop can handle, without needing to worry about buffering or skipping or anything. But now that they completely removed the ability to change the quality of the video, it just kind of stays in this high quality, like 720p video kind of thing, and that's great to look at, but it's also a fucking screen, like, slideshow on my laptop, because it just can't handle it. So I was unable to watch much of this episode up until the beautiful Brenda famous B celebration, or attempted celebration, with Tahano.
Yes. And so, okay, then just knowing that, we know that Azteca comes in, and I mean, he's all business. He, Cueto, I think, mentions, Delgado in the room, and Azteca says, look, no offense, I'm not here to make new friends. I'm here to destroy old enemies. And just says, I want Matanza. He took out Rey, put his hands on me. I want revenge, more or less, because we know that's Azteca's new line of thinking. And, Cueto obliges. And Azteca says, well, I want a death match. On top of that, I don't want this to be any other match. I want this to be a death match. Anything goes. And Delgado remarks, wow, Azteca, this kid's got balls, Dario. And Dario says, as you wish. And he picks up the phone, I guess, to make everything official. So we know that we're getting a death match between Azteca and Matanza tonight. Really, to me, two of the best performers in the temple. And yeah, what we got later, we're going to have plenty to talk about there. But I'm guessing you really don't have much to remark then about this cinematic, given your issues?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, well then let's move on. And like you said, we had our first match, Tahano versus Joey Ryan. I had so much fun on live reactions with this match, just being so pro Joey Ryan. I mean, I really do like the guy, and I'm really glad the waves he's been making on the independent scene and getting to work with Lucha Underground. And Tahano, I'll be honest, like, he grew on me a little bit with that best of 5, especially the last 2 matches where he was kind of healing it up more, taking those shortcuts. And the intrigue is being sustained because of Famous B, who I think, I think he is appropriately appreciated by everybody, but I never want that appreciation to wane, because that man is magnificent. But yeah, I mean, Tahano and Joey Ryan, they go out there. To me, they have a fun match. Joey Ryan actually proved to be a bigger thorn in Tahano's side than I thought he would be. But then Famous B and Brenda come out in the cowboy getup, in solidarity with Tahano. And there's a point in the match where Joey Ryan's going for the bull rope, but Famous B stops him. And then, Brenda, though, kind of kisses a horseshoe for good luck, hands it to Tahano. Tahano uses it on Joey Ryan to clog him. So it's not like he pushes it back and gets the 3 count. Now, the interesting thing to me, partner, about this storyline is Tahano, he gets his hand raised, but he shoves Famous B. Famous B tries joining in. He shoves him, but then Brenda tries to put the moves on him, and, he doesn't rebuke her. He just walks off. Do you think, now, you know me with my wild conjectures, but I'm starting to think, could Tahano be angling just to get Brenda all to himself and to cut Famous B out of the equation? Do you think he's going to capitulate to Famous B eventually and be like, okay, I'll join you? Because it seems like he's really all about what Brenda's offering.
Eventually him, like, kind of just giving in and being like, all right, fine. If it means being able to spend more time with Brenda, I'll be your client, Famous B.
Right. That could cause some interesting tension within the group, though. I think there are some unique narrative possibilities that can go with that if they want to. So, I mean, any thoughts about this this storyline or its potential trajectory? Like, any thoughts you want to give given this development tonight?
No, I think I think this whole storyline is still in its infancy, and I'm just curious to see where it goes.
Hey, man, that's fair enough. I really have nothing more to say about it, so unless you have any further remarks you want to make, we can move on.
All right, up next, we had Johnny Mundo in the ring for a promo.
I love him so much. If anybody couldn't tell.
I feel like I'm going to really dominate the talking time in the second half of this because of how much I'm giving you in the first half.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. But, I mean, I'm actually going to try and keep this brief. I thought it was a great heel promo by Johnny Mundo.
I want to say about it, brother.
No, I mean, it's just the usual talking points. Like, I forget which commenter on one of our Lucha Underground reviews. I don't think it was Super Evil. I don't think it was Jarveras, but somebody said, notice how Mundo is one of the few Rudos to like really just get the whole temple to boo and to get an appropriate reaction. And that's maintained here. I mean, Culero and boo. And here's the thing, and I don't mean to denigrate Johnny. I think he knows, if he's listening to this episode, how much I love him. But the guy isn't an extraordinary talker by any means, but he hits the narrative points to get people to boo. He makes fun of the people, you know, for being out of shape, and especially Mac, given the match type we have of All Night Long. He talks about how he's the best, that nobody's as cool as he is. I mean, all true, except for PJ Black and Jack Evans. Like, he's not this poetic guy on the mic, like, you know, CM Punk could like string sentences together, this and that. But I think Johnny Mundo proves you don't need to be, because I think as long as you believe to some degree what you're saying, doesn't really matter what you're saying, you're just going to piss off everybody else by the fact that you're saying it, period. And that's what I love about the Mundo heel character. You know, he's not this overly verbose kind of guy. He just knows how to get under your skin. And I think that's so refreshing to me. So, yeah, I mean, Chris pretty much says that Mac doesn't belong in the same ring as Mundo. He's garbage, and there's no way you can go all night long with him. But then the Mac comes around out of nowhere, you know, starts attacking Mundo, and he's kind of slumped in the corner, just wanting PJ Black and Jack Evans to handle everything, and they have the upper hand for a little bit. But, you know, Mac retakes control. He stuns them both. And Mundo, he's like looking at Mundo, and Mundo's like, please, please. And then he calls for security. Security actually comes. I will mark the fuck out if we learn that that's Mundo's own personal security detail, because, you know, he's a freaking star and everything. And I mean, he himself said that he put Lucha Underground on the map, and he beat everybody and did everything he was supposed to do. And, you know, I love that there's real gravity and truth to that statement too. So he's a heel with credibility, not just talking shit out of his mouth, at least on those fronts. But then Mac stuns all of security. He tosses him out, has a stare down with Mundo, and he essentially tells him, I'm going to beat your ass. But more than that, I'm going to beat your ass all night long. And as you revealed to me in live reactions, partner, this will be the first big match that we get back from break, which I think is fantastic. I couldn't think of a better way to resume a season than with a world title defense. I'm still loving Mundo's reign. I'm glad to see the Mac competing at this level, because I think he's an amazing babyface. And, you know, honestly, given the bigger story here, I mean, I don't know. I mean, because I think the first All Night Long, that's a high ceiling to try and exceed. That's a high bar to try and vault over. But I'm really curious what these guys can do for the whole episode. I really am. I think Mundo's the type of heel where you could see a lot of creative spots. And Mac is just so beloved by the crowd that I can see those hope spots and everything really going well. So I think these guys have a chance to really do something special. And I love this segment. I thought it was great stuff.
Yeah, this was great. Mundo healing it up, and like you said, universal loathing. I love it, man. He is the king heel right now. He is everything that I could ever want in a heel champion, and more power to the Worldwide Underground for keeping the title on his waist as long as possible.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, my closing remark is this. I tweeted at Cliff before the show. I mean, what a time for him and I personally to be alive and to be wrestling this, because he's such a huge Kenny Omega fan. And Kenny Omega had not only a career-defining moment, but, I mean, by the talk of a lot of people, an industry-defining moment with his match at Wrestle Kingdom 11. And Mundo's, you know, been world champion for a while now, and he's really gotten to show people what he can do at that main event level. And I'm just happy for people like that, that they get to show what they're really capable of. And I'm still enjoying the run, and I'm just so grateful for it. So hope they kill it at All Night Long too, but we're going to have to wait a while for that. What we're not going to have to wait a while for, though, is talking about the next segment. So, partner, take it away.
Well, up next, we had Cage coming out to the ring, and he's got the gauntlet on, and he actually takes the gauntlet off to have his match, but his opponent is somebody that we haven't technically seen before in the temple, but we've seen him before in the temple. Cage's opponent for tonight was Veneno, which is Spanish for poison, but we all know that under the Veneno mask is Cortez Castro, a.k.a. Officer Reyes.
All right, bro. I think this will be the first segment that you do. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually have a lot I want to say about this, but I want to hear your thoughts and drinking, your stream of consciousness about all this. So what did you think of this whole thing?
Well, I was really more busy paying attention to how long this match lasted than watching the match itself. But I mean, if I remember correctly, Veneno had some decent moves. He hit a Rana on Cage, I think. I know he hit a discus forearm, which is kind of a Cortez Castro signature in the temple. He hit a few offensive moves on Cage, but Cage, once he hit that freaking discus lariat, it was over. And he decided that that wasn't even enough, because even though he could have very easily pinned Veneno after that, he went for the Lucha Destroyer, I think he calls it, that Steiner screwdriver of his,
Right.
and destroyed Veneno. And that was the match. That was the whole match. But the noteworthy part was the post-match, and there were actually two post-match segments that were notable. So before we get into the post-match, John, did you have any other thoughts about the match itself?
The match itself, you covered all the bases, partner. My extensive commentary is on the post-match, so you go first again.
Okay, so the first post-match that was notable was when Cage puts the gauntlet back on, he immediately gets more aggressive, shoves the referee, starts healing it up a little bit. So I do definitely believe that gauntlet is going to increase. It's basically going to give him like a shot of extra testosterone, as if somebody that looks like Cage needs more testosterone, and it's going to increase his aggressiveness and just make him more ornery in general, and maybe even kind of delude his mind a little bit, because if there's going to be, like, if the gauntlet is the sort of median through which a god is taking over Cage's body, you would definitely think that Cage's mind would be clouded while he's wearing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, man, that's, I don't know, man. It's definitely going to be an interesting process, but the most notable thing was just that in general, Cage is much more aggressive now, and specifically, he's much more aggressive while wearing the gauntlet.
I mean, just on that, because I mean, this is really where my extensive commentary comes in, because I know something else happened, but I have less to say about that. You look at all of these happenings, and like this whole match and the two post-match segments really is Lucha Underground at its best, because you have Cortez Castro re-entering the fray as Veneno, with this new mask and going deep undercover and everything. You have Cage with the gauntlet that, as we established in the opening cinematic, Delgado and Cueto discussing, like, oh, it's taking him over. And you see that on display. What I love about it, though, and I'm telling you, man, like, I want to articulate this carefully, because I don't want everybody to explode like, what? Like they did at our TWitWoW Awards when they misunderstood. I'm not saying Cage in 2017 is like going to be my favorite performer, because that's always and forever going to be Mundo. But I really feel like if Cage hasn't already hit that plateau, he's well on his way to being one of the best written characters just in pro wrestling right now. Because I love how all of these tropes, when it comes to like big guys that look like him, are getting subverted. Like, he came in, didn't win the title right away, which we've talked about at length. And now you look at this gauntlet consuming him. And while believers may look at it as an actual heel turn, and I guess in a certain context it is, you and I and everybody that watches on TV, I see more tragic elements in it, because he's a vessel. Something else, something more malevolent is taking him over. To me, there's just something so Shakespearean about it. Like, he gains all of this power, yet at the ultimate price that, like, he won't even have the consciousness or the will to really exert it, because something else is taking him over. He loses his agency as a result. And a guy that looks like Cage shouldn't be like having descriptors of tragic or sympathetic, but goddamn does Lucha Underground pull it off. Like, Cage to me is really on the fast track to being a tragic character that we're going to look at and we're going to be like, oh my God, this poor man just completely getting taken over by this god. And it's going to really make us want to rally behind him and beat whatever malevolent forces are kind of feeding on him. And to think that a guy like that is getting a story like that, it just blows my mind in the best possible way. His writing for a while now, really ever since he became Technico, I think has been so on point and a real testament to just how great pro wrestling can be when you get over your gripes of, oh, it needs to be more like MMA, or oh, it's this. Like, this is pro wrestling to me at its absolute fucking best. And I've noticed I've associated Cage a lot with that lately, which just puts a smile on my face. But yeah.
You know what? You bringing up MMA in the context of Lucha Underground almost makes me realize that, like, yeah, Lucha Underground is probably the best wrestling product for wrestling fans who don't like MMA at all.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. If you're like us in any way, and by us I mean you and I, and you just really love a rich narrative with complexities that actually make sense and aren't trying too hard to be smart or trying to fastball you with, oh well, this was the plan the whole time, but carefully layered, carefully loved, and written, and just all that stuff. I mean, this is the product for you. Because I look at a character like Cage, and it shouldn't work as well as it is. And I know that people in the temple are probably going to start booing him soon. But like me, I'm just going to be like, oh, God, Cage, no. Because I know what's really happening. And you know what's really happening. And that's so fucking good that you can have two different things going on at once. Like, yes, the one appearance, when you look at it from the one vantage point, is, oh, it's a full-blown, Rudo turn. With us, it's like, yes, in a way, sure, but you have to qualify it that it's very heavily tragic. I love that it's almost purely constructive that way, based on the medium within which you're watching it. Either you're watching it live and you're extrapolating one interpretation, or you're watching it on El Rey, like we are, through a certain service, and you're seeing the cinematics, you're seeing all of the context that's missing from the live experience. I love that. I love that you have those two different vantage points that give you two completely different takeaways about the show. And I obviously think we're getting the more informed vantage point, but it doesn't change the fact that that just creates more just interest in the Cage character, because you've got all these people booing him, and yet I'm just going to be here like, oh, I hope he makes it out of it okay. Like, this is really, I think this is my favorite storyline in the temple right now. Like, outside of the Mundo title run, obviously. Like, if we're just talking about a pure narrative that's just balls to the wall, like, yeah, I'm fucking loving this shit. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you make a great point too, because it's not like, Cage is the bad guy. Cage is being taken advantage of by Cueto, really.
Yeah. And all of that context, though, is missing from the believers, which is, you know what,
But
though?
you know what, though,
Yeah.
John? If you think about it, how much more tragic does that make the Matanza character, too?
Oh, well, yeah, I think you and I have even discussed in the past that Matanza's kind of a tragic character as well. And I'd say Mil Muertes. All these guys, it's just amazing, the tragedy that surrounds them. But I love that, though. I love that Lucha Underground has the balls to play in the gray sandbox. Because now with all the believers in the temple potentially booing Cage, that's just going to enhance and intensify any emotions that are already kind of running through this storyline, because I just want to scream like, no, you've got the wrong idea. He's the victim here. You just don't know it because he doesn't look like a victim. And I love how they play with that. I love how they play with imagery and appearances and everything.
They're so good. And that's the thing too, is like, we know now how the selection process is done to choose who gets to be a host for a body of a god. And I mean, look at Matanza. Of course he was chosen to be a host. Like, look at him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, mind is blown right now. Like, this is really connecting a lot of dots. And like I said, man, this is the wrestling show for wrestling fans that don't like MMA, because I think it's a control thing. In MMA, the only control that any of the people promoting the company have is who faces who. It's okay, well, you're going to fight this guy, or you're going to fight that guy, or whatever. Everything else is up to chance. You could have, this big fight that you promote as your main event go 15 seconds, or, I mean, hell, how long did Ronda Rousey last against Amanda Nunes?
What was it, like 45 seconds, 48 seconds? I thought somewhere around
47 seconds, maybe. Yeah, but that could happen. But that's never going to happen unless it makes narrative sense in the world of Lucha Underground, because Lucha Underground fully embraces the fact that pro wrestling is a medium through which you have all the control as a writer, as a producer, as a director, etc. They don't leave anything to chance, or at least they leave very little to chance, because they tell who's going to fight who, but they tell the people fighting that this is what you need to get over. This is, something that needs to happen in the match. This is the story going into it. This is the narrative coming out of it. and they control everything, and that's what it really is, kind of the wrestling opposite of MMA, because I would say that the closest thing in wrestling to MMA that isn't MMA is New Japan. New Japan, they have weight classes, everything feels very real. They're legitimately striking each other. Now, granted, they're only hitting soft spots like the chest and the thigh and that kind of stuff. So they're not going to injure each other like there's a possibility of happening in MMA, but they're legitimately hitting each other. They're legitimately striking and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And everything is treated as a sport. So yeah, New Japan is on the MMA end of the spectrum of wrestling, but on the complete opposite end of that same spectrum is Lucha Underground, where they are based on exclusively, well, not exclusively, but they mainly are telling their stories through narrative rather than just in the ring.
And brother, I'm gonna be honest with you, just really reflecting on the Cage story and also thinking about the Mariposa, Marty the Moth, Sexy Star story. Like, even people that aren't traditionally wrestling fans, but maybe like big literature fans or movie buffs or whatever, I'd recommend Lucha Underground to them. I'd be like, look, if you have a predisposition towards wrestling, that's fine, but you need to watch this shit, because this completely, whatever conception you have of pro wrestling, I guarantee you this blows it out of the water, because I've already compared in a past review when the Sexy Star, Marty the Moth, and Mariposa storyline was going on. I compared that to something out of Alfred Hitchcock. And now this, like, I wouldn't say Shakespeare because I've read a few of his tragedies, but it definitely does play out like a tragedy, period. Hey, Shakespeare didn't have a monopoly on the market, and that's the thing. Like, I just love, and the way they film cinematics, which you and I have talked to death. Like, I think film buffs can get something out of this. I think people that enjoy good drama or art in general get something out of this. Like, this is art to me. This is what art is to me. And Cage, I am loving what they're doing with him. He's definitely one of the best written characters, I think, in Lucha Underground right now. Unfortunately, I could talk about his character and the motivations, everything going on with him forever, but we'll get to the other post-match. Sexy Star coming in after Cage does his damage, talking trash to Veneno, and he's just trying to be like, no, wait, no, you don't understand. And then Sexy just boots him in the face. Ashton, I know you were a little hot under the collar at Sexy here in live reactions, being like, come on, Sexy, whatever. So what did you think about all this?
You can't even pretend that she's being anything but unreasonable about this.
Yeah, I mean, I like, all right, what do you fully think about this as far as like the Sexy Star character almost seemingly not necessarily becoming unhinged, because I'm not really fond of that word, but like definitely seeing the pressure get to her, definitely acting more on her emotions rather than thinking things through. I mean, what do you think this is going to spell for her?
She needs to get the hell over her arachnophobia and start thinking with a logical brain.
Well, I mean, I don't think she's going to do that, though, because I just think the pressure keeps being applied to Sexy, though. I mean, between being screwed out of Gift of the Gods and then the world title 1 week later and then the tarantulas in the locker, like, Sexy has been through a very emotionally tumultuous period. I don't think she's going to pump the brakes and apply reason anytime soon, but I don't know if that's going to lead to any kind of long-term character development. Like, I don't think she's going to go Rudo. Let me just make that clear right now. That's not what I'm trying to hint at. I just wonder if, like, this is going to be one challenge that really is insurmountable to Sexy, because she's practically defeating herself at this point, just by attacking everybody and alienating herself. I mean, what's it going to get to? Is Sexy even going to start? Is it going to get so bad that she even becomes suspicious of Mac? Like, if she's really acting this irrationally and just shooting first and asking questions never, she's going to find that it's a pretty lonely place. And then when she's at her loneliest, I should say, the person terrorizing her and tormenting her, they're going to reveal themselves. And then Sexy's going to be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. So that's what I find really interesting about all this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Sexy Star, get your shit together. Stop being so like over the top, and realize that most tarantulas are not interested in hurting you, and that's what you're dealing with here, tarantulas.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you just
They're so
try?
much more intimidating looking than they are actually deadly.
Exactly. So Sexy, you just need to take a deep breath and realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't kick everyone in the face and I should try and think this through. Because I'm telling you, she keeps acting this way and acting this sloppily and just, exacting her revenge and everything. It's not going to be a good time for her at all.
Yeah. So, actually, I don't even know. I don't think tarantulas are even like harmful to humans. Tarantulas are like one of the few types of arachnids that are spider-looking arachnids that really aren't deadly to human. I think, yeah, like their venom is super low in toxicity to humans. Like they're like if you're gonna find any kind of spider in your locker, you're way better off finding a tarantula than like a black widow.
Yeah, really. I mean, come on, sexy star. Why are you being so ungrateful all of a sudden?
This whole storyline is either going to be the biggest swerve in Lucha Underground history or the biggest dropped ball in Lucha Underground history. I am genuinely curious to see where this ends up, because this is either going to be an amazing swerve or a huge like WTF. This is seriously what you wasted all that time with.
I mean, we'll see, man. I mean, because yeah, this is definitely one where I'm like, especially because again, this this is clearly getting to sexy, and we're clearly seeing this torment have a tangible effect on her. So I'm just curious again when the tormentor finally reveals themselves, whether it's a luchador or luchadora, or maybe a pair. I mean, who's to say it's more than one person? We're just gonna have to wait for developments to come. But yeah, poor Castro, man. First night under the new identity, and he gets the shit beat out of him on all sides.
Of course, I love though that Cueto is like, "Oh, you're a newcomer to the temple. Go be a test subject for the new god."
Yeah, really. Make
What an
yourself
asshole.
useful. Exactly.
Oh, Cueto, you adorable, psychotic little asshole. We love you.
We really do.
All right. Well, I'm not even sure what did happen next. Oh, we already talked about Sexy Star. That's what we just got done talking about. But then we had Prince Puma, a training montage type thing where he's using like two canes to beat the shit out of a punching bag. And the whole time he's having these flashbacks about Conan. And next thing you know, Catrina shows up and she's like, "Oh, when you come back, those visions are going to happen. I have them too. Who are you seeing?" And he says something about how, he sees himself covered in blood, but it's not his own blood, it's Mill's blood. And then Catrina's just like, "Oh yeah, I have those visions too, except it's your blood." And then she poof vanishes. And then Puma does like this crazy backflip and then uses both of the canes to hit the punching bag so hard that it breaks off the chain. The chains are off, baby. The chains are off.
Well, hey, brother, Puma's your boy, so I want to know from you directly. What'd you think of this cinematic?
Dude, anything that you put Puma in, as long as it's not ridiculously stupid, which pretty much nothing in Lucha Underground is, save for maybe the Sexy Star storyline, it's gonna get me. It's gonna make me happy. It's gonna make me excited. And this was no different than that. This was, dude, I am so intrigued by everything that they're doing with Puma and Vampiro, because it feels like Puma should be like full blown heel now, but I don't think he's gone after anyone that wasn't a heel themselves. So it's kind of a tough dichotomy to figure out there. Like, is Puma a bad guy, or does he just have a one track mind and he just really wants to get revenge on Mill?
Much like Cage, I mean, Puma's had his own kind of journey of just tragedy between losing Conan and losing the world title, and losing to Rey at Ultima Lucha Dos in the main event when he thought that was going to be like his defining moment to become the new king of Lucha Libre. So I mean, Puma's really known like adversity and defeat and like all that stuff. And now that he's kind of joining forces with Vampiro, I don't know. I don't think evil when I think Puma. He doesn't give off that vibe. I just think he's a guy, and this is going to sound cliche as fuck, and I apologize, but I do think he's a guy that's trying to find himself in a way, trying to reorient himself in the grand scheme of things and get back to a place where he's comfortable, And I think, with Vampiro, he's like, okay, well, I was at my best when I had somebody mentoring me. maybe that's how I'll get my best again when I get a new mentor, especially one that's completely antithetical to Conan, simply how those guys hated each other. So, I don't think Puma's evil or a bad guy. I just think he's a guy a lot like
Zombie.
Pentagon, actually.
He's
Beg
a
pardon?
zombie now. He's not a guy. He's a zombie.
He's a zombie, right, of course, because he got resurrected. He's a zombie that, a lot like Pentagon in a way, actually, I just think somewhere deep down just craves guidance, and he'll take it however he can get it without much question. So, yeah, I just find that very fair.
Man, Vampiro definitely has a type, doesn't he?
He really does. Yeah, he really does. Like, I think he really, I shouldn't say enjoys. I mean, it kind of has a perverse tone to it, this discourse. But,
I was just going to say, oh, you're a zombie? I know a necrophiliac that would absolutely love you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he definitely seems to prey on people, or in this case, again, zombies, who are emotionally vulnerable, that are susceptible to the power of suggestion, especially suggestions of taking absolute power and, indulging in the dark side. So we know with Pentagon, he wanted a master. He wanted that companionship, that camaraderie. With Puma, he lost his way after he lost his mentor. So again, that companionship, that camaraderie. So really, even if Pentagon Dark and Puma Dark become rivals, I love the way that they're bound with their innermost personal characteristics. Like, oh, you needed somebody, I needed somebody, and look at where we ended up because we were willing to pay whatever price to get that somebody.
Puma, Pentagon, Vampiro, Trios Champs 2017.
I'd fucking dig it. I'm not even with Lucha Underground's writing, they could sell me on it. And it wouldn't even take much because I fucking love Pentagon Dark. And it's Prince fucking Puma, for fuck's sake. Like, how can you not love it? But yeah, like, I'm really noticing like all the tragedy in Lucha Underground, and I love the score for this too.
Yeah, that's the only dude. The whole premise is, we are an underground fight club, and our doors are open. So anybody that wants to beat somebody else up, come on in. Like that's. I mean, yeah, like people that intentionally want to beat the hell out of each other are probably messed up in some way or another.
And I love that Lucha Underground, they really, explore that territory. And just one kind of offside remark. I rarely remark about this in a cinematic, but I love the music in this too, especially the music that kind of kicked up after Catrina left. So that, really did a great job setting the mood. Like, I just really love this cinematic. I thought Puma was so good here. And yeah,
this was great. Up next, then, though, we had our third match of the night and our main event of the evening: El Dragon Azteca Jr. versus I almost called him Monster Tanza or Monstanza. I don't know. The Monster Matanza Cueto. And this was good. It wasn't amazing by any means, but what really took it up a notch was the end of the match and then what followed the match in the post-match. So, John, if you want to talk about the match, I don't really have anything to add regarding the match itself. I mostly just want to talk about the ending of the match and what happened afterwards.
Hey, partner, I'll join you there. I guess all I'll say about the match itself is I enjoyed how it was worked. Matanza staying grounded in the character of, like, no selling and power offense, and Azteca, his athleticism blows my damn mind. So, I quite enjoyed the contrast.
The thing is, you called him, like, you keep on calling him like this freakish athlete. He's a good athlete, but like athletically, he's not even in the same league as like a Puma or even a Mundo. But the thing about him is that he's just so freaking slippery. He's so elusive and hard to get a grab on. Like, Matanza, I feel like Matanza went to do something to Azteca and missed like 90 times tonight. It was ridiculous how many bits of offense from Matanza that Azteca Jr. was able to evade.
And see, and I actually like that, though, and I will say this: I would rather somebody that looks like Azteca going up against somebody that looks like Matanza be incredibly evasive rather than pull a Kushida and be incredibly OP. Because I find elusiveness to be more believable when you look like Azteca and you have the speed that he does. So, yeah, I thought this was well worked on both sides. But, yeah, let's get to the spots that you want to talk about, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, so the next time somebody asks, but John and Ashton, but really specifically Ashton, why do you hate Kushida so much? All he's doing is countering moves. What do you expect? I can point them to El Dragon Azteca Jr. and be like, look, Kushida is a dwarf, and when you're a dwarf in wrestling, you don't counter everything. You do stuff like this, and then point out Azteca Jr. dodging and then getting his shots in.
Exactly. So, partner, let's get to those spots you want to talk about. Floor's yours.
Well, the ending of the match comes when they kind of work their way up the top of the steps. Matanza clearly wants to powerbomb Azteca through the building that Mill powerbombed Phoenix through, but Azteca is just too damn elusive. He just keeps on getting out of it and wriggling his way out of it and finding a way to reverse or get out of it or elude or evade or whatever. And eventually they make their way over to the steps, and Azteca does a Hurricane Rana to Matanza to send him down the steps, but Matanza, being the gigantic stone wall of a human being that he is, only drops like 5 or 6 steps before being able to retain his balance. And when Matanza has his balance, there's not much you can do to him. So Azteca tries to go after him, but he gets caught by the throat. And then Matanza choke slams El Dragon Azteca Jr. through the bleachers. What?
Yeah, that was fucking crazy to me. And like all this smoke, which you hilariously called ash dust, and live reactions just starts rising, and it's an amazing visual. Just sends chills down your spine. And yeah, I mean, Cueto immediately celebrates.
My ash dust theory was quickly debunked when they actually showed El Dragon Azteca's lifeless body at the bottom of the bleachers.
Yeah, I mean, all the same though in the moment, and that was only towards the tail end of the episode, and I can't even believe that in itself wasn't the end of it, because we got something else which we'll get to in a few moments. But yeah, just a great visual. Cueto immediately starts celebrating because he knows it's fucking over, and like he's celebrating with Matanza in the ring, and then Rey comes out. He goes to check on Azteca, and Matanza though in hot pursuit, because we know that he wants Rey bad. Like, he even did Rey's question mark logo in blood in his cell because he was banging his fists against the wall that damn hard. So he immediately goes in hot pursuit of Rey, and they start brawling. And I mean, Ash, what did you think of this whole skirmish here between Rey and Matanza?
Yeah, I mean, Rey, I felt like Rey, being kind of the fresher man, had a natural advantage in this, so it made a lot of sense that he was able to counter a lot of Matanza's stuff. But eventually I don't even remember, did he back body drop him or Hurricane Rana him to the outside there through the building that Phoenix got powerbombed through?
It was a back body drop that he did.
We got not one but 2 people going through surfaces that you expect them to land on.
Exactly. I mean, the bleacher spot got the bigger pop out of me. I think
because
only
it was
we
less
have
expected. Because the bleacher spot was like, Matanza's going to choke slam him onto the bleachers. That's going to be such a brutal like thud. And then you just see him go through the hole you were expecting him to land on. It's like, that was unexpected. But then with the building, it was more, no. Oh, God, he's going through the building. And then he did.
Exactly. I mean, just a great sequence there. Admittedly, and yeah, this is definitely my pro Matanza bias. I wanted to see him destroy them both. But even if, like, you want to take the piss out of Rey, narratively, this does make sense because Matanza had already taken him out. I think Rey was due to kind of even the odds just a little bit. So I'm cool with him getting the upper hand, only because, again, it was only recent that Matanza took him out and Rey was at home healing, his damn back. So as much as I would have liked Matanza to powerbomb him through the building, it makes narrative sense, so I can, let it slide. And yeah, Cueto starts ringing the bell like he's frantic, like, oh my God, my monster, my brother, my everything. Just everything's going to shit, ringing the bell, like telling people to get out, which you perfectly pointed out makes, amazing sense for a mid-season finale. I love that they even think of that too. And I mean, unless you have anything else you want to say, we can transition into our final cinematic, which blew my mind. So
yeah, I don't really have much to add. We had, you know what? Actually, I do have something to add. The last time that we saw somebody go through that building, it was Phoenix, and he was basically pronounced dead before being resurrected because he's a frickin' Phoenix. But Matanza, he doesn't have the power of 1,000 lives. I don't know. Is Matanza dead? And furthermore, is El Dragon Azteca Jr. dead. This was a death match, and we haven't seen Cuerno since July 20th. So, are these guys dead in kayfabe, in canon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more curious about Matanza simply because he is a vessel with a god inside of him. So what happens to the god inside of the vessel? Does it die with the vessel? Does it find a new host in time?
Is the god inside of the vessel the only thing that allows the vessel to survive a fall like that?
Exactly. And if the god is seriously wounded alongside the vessel, is it going to try and find a new host? You know, there's a whole litany of questions I think you can pose, which is the perfect way you want to leave for a break. And so, yeah, I mean, we get that. And then we go outside the temple. Melissa Santos is taking pictures with fans. She is freaking amazing, by the way. Last plug. She is going to be on AfterBuzz tomorrow. Anybody that loves Melissa or Lucha Underground, check that out. I can't wait to watch it. She's amazing. So, yeah, she's taking pictures. But as much as I'm a fan of Melissa Santos, I pale in comparison to her number one fan, Marty the Moth, who is creep watching her from afar. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know if you were thinking it too, but I was definitely thinking, oh my God, he's going to abduct her. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I could literally feel my anus be inside my throat because I attained a whole new level of anxiousness. But before anything could be perpetrated, Marty gets kidnapped. And man, we were speculating, like, what does him, like, choke slamming Mariposa mean? What's happening with the Moth tribe? We got a little bit of a hint because we then go to a room where this light bulb's kind of flickering, this light's being played with. Marty is bound up by rope, you know, almost cocoon-like, like how Sexy Star was before at the end of the first Ultima Lucha. And we see that Mariposa's controlling the light, and she says, you know, good job. I think little brother, maybe the Moth has finally seen the light. And Marty starts laughing and he says, I did good. I did good. Ashton, what do you think of this, man? I know you were already confused by the initial quote unquote betrayal, which I don't even know if you can color it that way anymore. What do you think now that we have this narrative to illuminate or further darken the situation depending on your vantage point?
Yeah, I have no clue, man. This is definitely one of those things where we're gonna have to wait and see because I have no insight on this whatsoever. Our speculation was, oh, maybe Marty wants to challenge her for the title of the Mariposa of the Moth Tribe, which is given to the best fighter in the Moth Tribe. But I mean, if she's happy or impressed or what, because she said, "You have my attention now." And then
Yeah,
that was before she said, "You've finally seen the light." Like, what the hell is going on here?
I love it. Again, like one of these days I'm going to learn not to just like have this knee-jerk reaction based on my prior experience with wrestling because my knee-jerk reaction was, oh, well, clearly Mariposa's going technico and these two are going to feud. Lucha Underground once again telling me, you know, John, when are you going to learn? Not so fast, you know? And they do more table setting and then we get this and Mariposa doesn't even seem mad. Again, to both of our points, she seems proud. She seems happy for Marty in a really weird, perverse way, as you can only expect from the Moth Tribe. And I'm so happy that the season ends with him, with Marty, because anybody that's been listening to this podcast, really since he showed up, and a little bit, you know, beyond that, should know what a huge fan I am of Marty the Moth and how behind him I am. So to see it end with him bound up in that kind of rope cocoon, just laughing and saying that he did good. Yeah, you're damn right you did. And I can't wait to see the second half of his season 3. I'm telling you, his best is yet to come. And we may be seeing it when we come back from break. Because if Cage is like my number one storyline, again, outside of the whole Mundo, which is his own separate category, this is immediately number 2 and could overtake the number 1 spot because I love Marty and I love Cage. I just love that I love everybody on this goddamn show. And this cinematic was wonderful. So great stuff.
I love love.
Yeah, it's just such a feel-good thing, even though people are entertaining dark forces and beating the shit out of each other. So that's Lucha Underground. That's the mid-season finale. I mean, partner, anything you want to say before we get into our next segment?
No.
Okay, well then, high spots and low shots. And I gotta say, my low shot is Veneno. I mean, he debuts with the new mask, Cortez Castro deep undercover. And yeah,
even
Cage.
deeper undercover, you mean?
And Cage beats the shit out of him, and then 60 Star literally kicks him in the face. So, yeah. Oh, and by the way, forgot the funniest moment of live reactions. You know you're a Lucha Underground, Mark, when you see a little bit of black smudge on Cage and you're like, sweet mother of God, the God is taking him over. And then your partner comes in and says, actually, John, I just think it's black paint from Veneno on his chin and it just smudged Cage. Oh. Well, this is awkward. So, you know, classic Lucha Underground viewing experience. I do apologize for my overzealousness, but that's what Lucha Underground does to me. So apologies for jumping to conclusions, but there you go.
You
But
don't
yeah,
need to apologize for being inquisitive, John. Come on, dude.
but yeah, I mean, Cortez Castro, or Veneno, as he's calling himself now, definitely my low shot. Got the shit beat out of him. What a
I'm really tempted to just go along with Cliff and say my low shot is the Eagle Tribe, the Eagles, and the Eagles.
Hey man, they all had a shitty night, man. I would not blame you one
fucking
bit.
hate the Eagles, man.
Matanza does too, apparently, and he let everybody know it. Oh my god.
Well, regardless of the Eagle Tribe itself, my low shot actually is El Dragon Azteca Jr., considering he's probably dead.
Well, I mean, you can't go any lower, I think, than falling through the goddamn bleachers, so it even kind of works on a literal level, too. So, you know.
And the thing is, if he was associated with more despicable people like Catrina and Vampiro, he might have a shot at being resurrected. But his corpse is probably going to be like, it's probably going to go home to Rey Mysterio, and he is so like high and mighty. There's no way he's going to even try to dabble in the resurrection game. So Azteca Jr. might be dead for good.
Yeah, I mean, look, not to take the piss out of Ray, but totally to take the piss out of Ray. I mean, that old fart, he's not going to dabble in you know what he's going to dabble in? The art of fucking lecturing. Because while flies are having a feast on Azteca's corpse, Ray's just going to be like, see, I told you. I told you don't pursue revenge. I told you at least.
Ready, man.
I told you about revenge. I told you at least twice. At least.
at least twice.
You know what the fuck, Azteca? So yeah, Ray is just gonna give.
You ain't never listen to my lectures, not even once.
He's like, now you think I'm gonna resurrect you? Look, man, I'm about that justice. I don't dabble with that shit. Okay, I'm the pride of Mexico. All right. So yeah,
dude. We gotta watch Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story again, because that movie is really like, it's slowly creeping into my top 10 favorite movies of all time, because frickin' you ain't never paid for drugs, not once.
Dude, the jokes in that movie are great, and the song numbers too. That's what actually made me really love it. The songs are genuinely good. Like, there are some genuinely good musical numbers in there, but regardless.
Yeah, I mean, if you want further proof, I literally have the soundtrack of that movie on my phone.
There you go. But I mean, regardless, I mean, I know Azteca won't be watching that movie or any movie because he's dead. So,
and just think, one of the first times that we saw Azteca was a transition from a famous B commercial through the TV.
Yeah.
He's not going to be watching TV anymore unless you count the inside of his eyelids channel.
Oh, snap. Like Azteca's back after hitting those bleachers.
And then the concrete under them, right?
Yeah, his life's over. Literally.
Literally, yeah. Come on. That was a little nail on the head there, John.
I know. Let's see. Okay. Who is going to be my high spot? See, this is actually the first time, at least in what feels like a while. It might have actually been more recent, but with how I've been gushing over him lately, it's going to be the first time.
Everybody had a bad night tonight.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say that my high spot really is Tahano. Because even though his win was tainted, even in a way that, like, he didn't want, he still gets to live tonight. Oh, and not only does he get to live, he gets to live with his own agency and autonomy intact, unlike Cage, the guy that beat him for the quote-unquote prize. So, yeah, Tahano might be the biggest loser, but losing never felt so good because he's still doing his own thing and he won tonight and he gets to keep living his life and getting in barroom brawls and just being Tahano. So in the grand scheme of things, though this temple can fuck up a life, I'd say Tahano's sitting pretty right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Tahano had a pretty good night, and really, I feel like he is the only person that competed in a match tonight that has any claim at the high spot whatsoever. So I'm going to come a little bit out of left field with my high spot. My high spot is going to be Councilman Delgado because
Nice.
like he answers to the Lord, and the Lord wanted a new host for the God, and that's clearly working. But at the same time, like the only other person that really benefits from that like working is Cueto, but he was like his brother might be dead, so I can't give him my high spot. So Delgado is just like I just imagine him at the bar sipping on a glass of like a White Russian on the rocks, laughing his ass off like ha, 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 I'm doing what my boss wants, but my brother isn't dead. So that's like that's the only reason that I can give him high spot, because he's doing his job and nobody near and dear to him is dead or potentially dead.
You know what? It really says something about a program when all of that logic makes perfect fucking sense.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that like even Rey, like, oh, Rey got the upper hand on Matanza tonight, but oh, his literal student is basically dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how can I give Rey my high spot? And same thing probably applies to Cueto. Cage is getting freaking taken over by a god, and that in really against his will. Veneno is pathetic. Sexy Star is an emotional wreck. Freaking Joey Ryan lost to the most boring guy in the temple. You already took Tahano. Famous B got shoved. Brenda wants to be or is going to get taken advantage of by Tahano, or at least he'd like it that way. Like nobody else had a good night tonight at all.
No, they really didn't.
Maybe I give my high spot to Marty because he's proud of himself for having done something good. But at the same time, like, dude, you're in a rope cocoon. The last person to be in one of those was Sexy Star at your hands, and she got emotionally abused.
How apropos is it too that so many people had a shitty night tonight, where somewhere in like all the Lucha Underground writers and everything in their minds, they knew the believers were gonna have a hard night because now we have to begin the withdrawal process. So it's like,
well, no, dude, that's the thing. Like the writers had no clue that this season was going to get broken up.
Oh, okay.
That's not even like that wasn't even that's a call by the El Rey Network, because like the big ratings month, like the month where you get to like set your ad rates and stuff, is September. So the El Rey Network wanted to stretch the season out so that Ultima Lucha 3 would be able to take place in September. So that's why we're taking this break.
I can't really fault El Rey for that when you look at that kind of reasoning. I mean, I hope
that's what that's how I understand it. If this was the planned mid-season finale, it was freaking perfect. But the fact that I think it was unplanned almost makes it a beautiful fluke, because like this really is the perfect end of the beginning of the middle of the season. It's like
right.
Everything is in ruin, and the last sight that you see in the temple is Cueto clearing everyone out. Like, yeah, it would make sense that we're not going to be able to see what goes on in the temple for the next few months, because Cueto isn't going to allow anybody to be in his audience.
Exactly.
That's brilliant writing if that was the actual way that went down. And it's even more amazing if they didn't know.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Fucking nuts, man. I freaking love this show.
That's knuckin' futz.
Yeah, I mean, so Delgado's your high spot.
Yeah. And by the way, if the math is lining up properly, and I'm right about them coming back to time it so that Ultima Lucha 3 ends in September, the first episode back from this break will be April 19th.
I mean, they did say, I saw an image on Lucha Underground's Facebook that they'll be back the summer of 2017. So, I mean, that kind of lines up, I guess, though. April categorizes more as spring, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only other way that I could imagine them going about it is if they pushed it back so that all 4 episodes of Ultima Lucha 3 were in September, in which case the first episode back would be May 10th. But even then, you're not going to get, you're not going to get every episode in or your first episode still like May is still technically spring.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know why they're saying summer unless there's like, are the seasons different in California because of how different the climate is over there? Like I don't know. Because
I
to
don't
me,
know
yeah,
either.
like someone even said in chat, summer as far as I'm concerned is June, July, and August. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. If they're trying to push it back to September, then we're gonna get some like penultimate lucha shit in September. If they're gonna start it in June, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm ready to just go crawl in a corner and die because I'm not gonna have Lucha Underground for a minimum of 3 months starting tonight.
Yeah, that withdrawal is going to be a real bitch.
It is. It is. I need to talk to Elliot Alderson's dealer to get some anti-withdrawal meds.
We're just going to like get Lucha Underground in capsule form. We're just going to crush it up. We're going to snort it. Oh, that's good storyline progression. Okay, that's the stuff. And then you're just going to just hug yourself.
We just spend every Wednesday night when we should be watching NXT snorting Lucha Underground capsules.
I'm just going to watch the Johnny Mundo title win on a loop. I'll be like, yeah, that's my champion. Yeah, I love myself. I'll get through this. And I'm just picking at my skin. And you're like, John, the fuck are you doing? There's been this roach on me for like 30 minutes. I've almost got him. Yeah. And
oh my God.
It'll go to some really
disturbed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, given how accurately I know how to depict drug use for reasons I'm not proud of, we should probably move on. So, you want to take us home?
Sure, yeah. I mean, John and I kind of talked before the show, and I guess I'm going to handle the outro tonight because there's no background, so we have a lot more to plug. First and foremost, before you guys decide to start kind of, lining up to get out of here, just wanted to make sure to let you guys know that we are still doing Patreon requests. The prices are listed on patreon.com/TWitWoW. Really easy to get there. So for those, we have one coming up this month. We are going to be reviewing, not live reacting, but reviewing Ring of Honor's Final Battle 2016 show. I believe that's actually the show that Kyle O'Reilly wins the ROH Championship on, which we now know only lasted a month, so that should be interesting. So that's going to be a thing. But Patreon requests are still, you can do that. Teespring.com/Scum Squad. If you would like to buy a Scum Squad shirt, we had 4 people purchase Scum Squad shirts in the first week of its availability. If you don't want a shirt, you can buy a mug for $15, and if you don't want to spend that much money, you can buy a sticker for $6. So you have different pricing options, but it all is helpful. It all supports the TWitWoW product and the creators behind it, me and John. So anything is definitely appreciated. John, did you want to say something?
Oh no, partner. I thought you were directing something towards me. Please continue.
Okay, so then, oh God, hey Cliff, if you pony up the dough for it, we'll do it. So Patreon, Teespring. I also wanted to make sure that you guys know that we are still doing our Q&A videos. The maximum number of questions per person has been reduced from 5 to 3, but you can still get in your 3 questions, and if you want, all 3 of those questions can be for both of us. So, it's basically 6. You're basically cheating at that point. And that will be happening on Friday, January 27th. We are about 16 days away from that. And I actually did see Cliff Amal posted a picture of himself wearing the Scum Squad shirt, and it looked amazing. So go ahead and check him out on Twitter if you want to see what the Scum Squad shirt looks like in real life. It looks amazing, in my opinion, even better than what I thought I designed. So then, of course, you want to check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/TwitWoW. Check out John on Twitter, at John_TwitWoW. Check me out on Twitter at Apon404. That's APOND404. Go to reddit.com/r/TwitWoW. We have a subreddit there. And of course, the channel is where you're watching this video, so I don't really need to plug that. John, am I missing anything?
No, brother, I think you covered all the bases and definitely more succinctly than I did. So, bravo to you.
Well, then I'm going to back off and let you do your intro that you always do.
All right, guys, with that said, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best. I had to give it a good one on mid-season break. Wrestling podcast on the web today for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans. I'm all over the lot. But yeah, guys, we will see you again for our NXT review. Be sure before you shuffle out, give this video a like. The more likes this video gets, the more likely it is to be the top Lucha Underground review on YouTube. And when you're the best at what you do, the top is the only place that you belong. And we are going back tonight for NXT reviews. They're finally doing new content that we can cover. And I'm particularly excited about this, as I know our TWitWoW fan Brandon Best is as well, because Crazy Mary Dobson debuts on this show. It's sure to be freaking great. I can't wait to cover it here. You'll get all your best coverage at TWitWoW. And until then, guys, tune in and peace out.